Hello, everyone. Welcome to Achieving Success with Olivia Akin. I am your host, Olivia Akin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We will give you real-life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top-notch guests. Today, we are speaking with Cris Ross-Francis. Cris is the founder and owner of Up Next Sports Consulting. Cris specializes in branding, marketing, event management, and social media training. In addition to owning her own business, Cris established her own non-for-profit called Life Beyond the Rim. Life Beyond the Rim is an organization that teaches student athletes how to balance being a student and an athlete and the importance of education, how to get scouted, as well as by using social media, and how to create your highlight video or film, and the importance of having that backup plan. You can find Cris by going to her website, gametimewithcris.com, or by emailing her at upnextsportsconsulting@gmail.com. Hello, Cris. It's fantastic having you on the show today.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you. That was a great introduction, girl. Thank you. I feel so like, the queen is here.
Well, you are here and we're excited to have you on the show. And I'm so excited to dive into everything because you've so much talent and story behind why you do the amazing things that you do. So I'm so excited to be able to share that today and discuss it because you are definitely a queen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. We talked previous before, so I know it's going to be a good show.
To start off the show, can you tell me what success means and looks like to Cris Ross-Francis?
Well, success for me is for me, I love helping people. So that is my biggest thing. So once I feel like I'm in a space of helping people and making sure they're getting to their goals, that's success to me because I know how hard it is to be an athlete and just working in the sports industry. And I know that sometimes it can be hard, especially doing it on your own. So if I can come in and help anybody in any capacity to get to their dreams, that's success to me. People might measure success by, materialistic things or luxury things. And it not for me. Like, of course, I want those things in life. But for me, helping people get to their goals, and just me helping them and being in that capacity to be able to help them to get to their success, that's success to me.
And I think that's really important because through your own experiences as being an athlete and going through the process yourself, sports especially, I feel like gets glamorized.
Yep.
You see all the amazing things happening, but you don't see all the work and the grind that goes behind the scenes to be achieving those goals, whether it's on a court, on a field, or even in the longevity of it. And that could be as the athlete or the team surrounding them. So you really have to think about that. For you, I want to start out with you growing up playing basketball and then going in and playing in college, but you were also a sociology major.
Yep.
So how did you go from sociology and that aspect and playing the game yourself to deciding that you wanted to help other athletes?
So when I initially graduated high school, I wanted to be a social worker. So they was like, well, you can major in sociology and, you can minor in social work and things like that too, because I love helping people. So that's like always been my biggest thing is like, I love helping people. So, and then once, I got out of school and really started seeing what social workers do is, and no knock to any people that's in the industry, it can be a little depressing. Because you're working with different cases or whatever the case may be, and it can sometimes get sad or depressing, and so for me, I never really I always wanted to see the happy in helping people, not always like, oh, I got to take a kid from somebody or that whatever the case may be when you're doing social work. And so what made me get into it was because when I was it all happened in high school when I had a teammate and she was really good, and so I was always like, hey, we should get you a highlight. We can do this, we can do that. And that really was like the spark of it all. So it's like I kind of went away with it or whatever. And so when I really graduated high school, I didn't want to do social work. I was like, I want to stay around the sport. So I did coaching, I did training. I loved it, but I really loved the business side of it. And so when I was doing the business side of it, with the teams and getting sponsorships and endorsements, that really sparked it under me. I didn't know what it was at the time. So, and I was like, oh, okay, I really don't know what this is, but I like doing it. Cause at that time, marketing branding wasn't really big in the sports industry, as it is now, like NIL and things like that. And so from there, I was like, oh, okay. So I started interning for a sports agent. And he was like, then at the time, he started a professional team, a professional basketball team. So he was like, okay, you can be the general assistant manager, but I would like you to do the branding side and the sponsorship side, helping athletes with their marketing and branding and things like that. And then from there, it was like, it just came naturally and easy for me. And so I really, really loved it. And so I was like, ever since that day, it was like, okay, I love marketing. I love branding. This is my niche and this is what I want to do. I do more so branding than marketing. But I feel like marketing and branding go hands in hand. But ever since that day, I just loved it. Like I've been rocking and rolling and sticking with it.
And I think that's an important aspect of it all, is really finding how everything mixes together. That degree and going down that path helped you to realize how playing basketball and the sports aspect plays a role in the branding, how people think and all of that. For you, what was the transition like from being someone who was on the court playing to being on the, in the back end of the office, the people navigating that support staff? What was that transition like?
So the transition was pretty easy for me. I still play from time to time. So it's like, I never like stopped playing, It was like a bittersweet as well, because it was like, I love the actual playing of the game. But when I actually seen what was going on with these athletes, I started working out with semi-pro athletes. So with semi-pro athletes, they make little to no money. And a lot of them don't understand that they have a brand, and so I kind of was like, oh, okay, let me focus on this instead of just playing, because I played and it was okay. But I always came back to wanting to do the business side of basketball, being behind the scenes, not really being on the court anymore, being a superstar or whatever the case may be. Let me just be more behind the scenes and just working with different athletes and seeing what capacity I wanted to work in as well. Because like I mentioned before, I did coaching and training. And then I also was assistant general manager as well. So I work in different capacities of sports, but I always came back to, helping people find sponsorships, endorsements, helping them build their brand. And so it just really came naturally to me. Like my transition wasn't really difficult. But I did before, like after college, I did went through a little phase where I was trying everything. Like I did modeling. I wanted to be an actor. I did rapping. Like people don't even know that about me. Like I lived many lives, but I always came back to, marketing and branding.
And I think that's important though, to also understand that you can have many lives. Like who says you can't, right? Who dictates that you can't be doing multiple things at once, or you can't go through different, I don't want to say phases, but different navigation, paths to really find, okay, if I'm keep getting pulled back to this area, maybe that's saying something. Maybe that's where it's going. For you, why do you think branding and marketing is so important and sometimes overlooked by athletes and individuals who we all have our own brand?
Yep. I feel like a lot of athletes don't understand the importance of it. I think they just look at like playing is an option, and that's the only option that they have. And not understanding that you can make money. And not only that, like after you stop playing, you got to understand that your brand can make you money, you know? And so I feel like a lot of, especially I would say more so like athletes, student athletes and kids, they really don't understand it. They're starting to understand now with the whole NIL thing, but a lot of them still don't get it as well because they don't understand the importance of it. The importance of having a brand, building a brand, and just understanding that your brand can make you money, you know, and not understanding that getting yourself out there can open up many doors. That's why you see a lot of these, you know, coaches getting these jobs because it's all about branding. You know, the people that got the big names, them the ones that's getting the big coaching jobs because they're working on their brand. And then not only that, like I always say, Kobe had, like to me, Kobe had the best brand because 10 years from now, even though he passed away, people will still know who he is because of his brand, you know? And so I feel like people should, like, it depends on like what you want to leave in this world. Do you want to leave a legacy or do you want to not be known out after you pass away? So it just all depends on like the athlete and their mind and their perspective of branding, but it's very important, especially if you want to monetize off of it, you know, so.
And I think that's really important. Like you mentioned, look at Kobe years after, and I wouldn't be surprised in 100 years if Mamba mentality is still a factor and a big thing, not just in sports, but across the board, and people know what it is. I would not doubt it at all. But that brings to the forefront of him getting out there, him talking about it, him setting that standard. It's elevating yourself in a new direction. And like you said, monetization, right? Look at the brand that Shaq built. You know, Shaq doesn't need to be doing anything, but he built his brand that he can do what he wants. He's an amazing individual, and he can grow that in any direction he wants. But you say Shaq, everyone knows who it is.
Yep. I feel like now at this point in Shaq life, he's just doing whatever. Because I see him in commercials. I've seen him on TV. He back rapping. So he's just having fun at this point. Like, he's just having fun at this point. But not only that, it's like, also it's important for your brand to get your mission and your vision out. Like, to let people know exactly who you are. Like, I know for me, as like, if I'm a fan of someone, I want to know more about you. Like, I want to know what your vision and your mission is, and I can buy into you. So if you're an athlete and I don't know nothing about you, most likely I'm not gonna invest my money or my time into you. And I give this a good example. LeBron, like off the court, he's he's good on the court too. Let me not LeBron haters. I'm not a LeBron hater, okay? But I'm saying like off the court, all the amazing things that he do, I will be more invested in him as an athlete because of what he's doing outside of what he's doing. Because he has a mission, he has a vision for everything he does, and that's a part of branding as well. And so he's able to build these businesses and things out there, and he's going to be well off after he's done playing. So it's like those type of things you have to think about when you building your brand. It's like, okay, because a lot of athletes don't know what they're going to do. Like, you know, you're hearing about all these athletes getting cut from the WNBA and stuff like that, and they just like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do next. You know what I'm saying? If you would have worked on your brand and not so much on like NIL deals, like that's another thing. I'm not even gonna get into that, but NIL deals, instead of just really working on your brand, you wouldn't worry about a paycheck from playing. You can go overseas, you can play here, you can play there. But if you don't want to go overseas and you just want to stay in the States, if you would have worked on your brand, it would have been good for you because you're like, okay, I have this brand. I can go speak at schools. I can go do this. I can go do that. I can be a brand influencer. It's so many things that you can do with your brand if you just really worked on it and focused on it.
For you, what have you done that has helped you grow your brand? That whether you're an athlete or an individual, because again, everyone has a brand and everyone can put that out there. What are things you do that you think would help elevate anyone, or something that everyone should kind of think about?
Yep. So for me, the biggest thing is like doing PR, doing podcasts, getting in magazines, just getting people to know more about you so they can invest in your brand. I did that. And then I also created content. So my content is basically giving brand tips and things like that, so people can know, like, oh, okay, this is what I want to do, like how to grow their brand, especially on social media, things like that. And then also I try to get in the community as well. That's another thing. That's a big thing that people don't understand. That can help your brand. Just getting in the community, like with my nonprofit and things like that, and just giving back, it's helped me with my brand as well.
And I want to go into the community aspect, but before we do that, I think it's really interesting and important that you brought up the aspect of utilizing social media to, it helps whether whatever you're posting, if you're a knowledge expert on it, or that's your role, or you know a lot, or you're passionate about something, posting that information helps other feels connected to you, that it's authentic, and want to trust you and rely on you to turn to when they need information. Now, I want to dive into the community aspect, because communities and the people you surround yourself around and help grow will always flourish you as well. What made you decide to start your nonprofit?
So what made me decide to start my nonprofit? Like I said, I always seen a need for what my nonprofit stands for. That's from helping you with your brand, also helping you learn how to balance being a student athlete, because a lot of kids don't know how to balance being a student athlete, like their transition from college, from high school to college into professional. Like a lot of them don't know that transition. So that was another thing that I highlighted in my nonprofit as well. And highlights, a lot of kids don't know how to do a good highlight. Like everybody just don't want to see you score all the time. Like, do you play defense? Or can you make plays? Different things like that. And then also doing mentorship. Because I feel like a lot of athletes don't really have anybody to talk to. When I say talk to, is like it's more people like telling them what to do versus like listening to them. And I feel like that needs to be more in the student athlete world, because it's like all these kids know is play basketball and go pro. They don't know anything about, like, if I get cut from the team, what do I do? Like, how do I react? The importance of having a backup plan. That's very important, because a lot of kids, all they think is like, oh, I'm just going to go pro, and not understanding like everybody can't go pro. It's a small percentage of athletes that go pro. So you got to have a backup plan. Like, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to coach? Do you want to be a speaker? Think different things like that. Do you want to own your own business? So for me, starting Life Beyond the Rim, it was like I wanted to highlight all those things as an athlete, because those are things that I went through when I was an athlete. My transition, not having a backup plan, because I'm thinking I'm going to go to the WNBA, not understanding how to do my highlights. Of course, I had to do cassette tapes. They got social media now, so it's like, I'm sure, but those different things that I wanted to highlight in my nonprofit, because I feel like a lot of that don't get taught to these student athletes,
especially at a young age. And public schools, and depending on where you are, what community you might be in, that gets very easily overlooked. Right. The discussion isn't there, but like you said, it's a very important discussion, no matter where you are in your life. But especially in sports, you see that transition a lot more frequently at a younger age. But because those discussions aren't being had, they don't understand how to handle it. And handling it and how you work through that can pivot your career and longevity just as much as what might happen if you succeed. For you, how do you gauge the community yourself, whether it's with your nonprofit or not, in trying to help those athletes?
For me, I feel like I try to at least go to schools and speak. Also, I go to games just to, interact with some of the athletes as well. Just to for me, it's just to stay active in the community, like going to games, going to the schools, talking to kids, mentoring kids. I also talk to a lot of local programs here, AAU teams, and that's pretty much it.
And I think that's really important to be visible to your community.
Yep.
What would you tell those athletes who are so focused on the game and moving their career that sometimes those pieces, whether it's education or being involved in the community, sometimes don't seem as important in the now?
Yes. I always say, think outside of the box. You have to, like me, I always been a realist. So I knew for a fact that I had to have a backup plan, because I know I could play overseas, but I know I wasn't going to WBA. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I had to be real with myself. And I feel like a lot of kids don't have that around them. It's because they are so forced to just play basketball and not think about anything but that. And then not only that, it's like, okay, now that NIL is in the picture, it's like, okay, basketball and NIL. And people not understanding, like what is your backup plan? What will you do when the ball stops dribbling? What will transpire outside of this if you got hurt tomorrow? And so I feel like a lot of student athletes have to see the bigger picture instead of just playing basketball and getting NIL deals. I feel like it needs to be. I'm trying to get the mission out there, but it's definitely a lot of more kids need to know.
For you, and you just talked about this and looking at that bigger picture and saying, what is that bigger picture? What is your backup plan if something happens tomorrow? How do you kind of express that to people of like, hey, let's sit down and figure out your backup plan? And what do you kind of try to get them in the mind frame of, hey, let's deep dive into this. We really need to think about that. When athletes might be going, I don't need to think about that, or, that can wait until next week or next month once the season's over.
So for me, I always ask them what their passion is outside of the sports. And a lot of them really don't know what their passion is. Some of them come over like, oh, I like fashion. Oh, I like this. And I try to get them to understand, okay, what's your passion? Are you, is there a cause that you heavily interested in? That could be like cancer or, Girls and Boys Club or anything like that. So I try to get them to think outside of just playing basketball, by asking them, like, what is your passion? Like, what can you do if you wasn't making any money? Will it still make you happy? You know what I'm saying? So that's my thing, is like coming to the athlete and like, let's figure it out. Like, hey, what is your passion? Okay, from your passion, let's do a plan. Let's build a plan. Okay, if you want to be an influencer, okay, let's do that. Or if you want to build a business, let's do that. So I think the main thing for me when asking an athlete is just, what is your passion? What would you like to do every day and it not feel like a job?
And I think that's a really important question to ask across the board, is
Yes.
figuring out not just what you want to be doing, like you said, with the clothing industry, but like, what is your why? And what within that, what's that niche that's drawing you to say, this is what I want to be doing? Because it can be something as like, especially in clothing, right? We have children's, men's, women's, high fashion.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Everything across the board. So it's really figuring out that bottom line of what you want to do and thinking above it. Cris, so for you, when you see an athlete capitalize on that moment in time, and then you tell that, like, there's that transition, like we've discussed with LSU athletes and across the board, and potentially the right way to do something and the wrong way. So for you, what do you think that right growth, but still capitalizing on the moment, should look like?
So I feel like athletes shouldn't wait on the moment. I feel like they should plan before the moment. I feel like, anybody can have like 15 minutes of fame. You get what I'm saying? And I feel like athletes should plan before instead of just banking on one moment. But you should definitely capitalize on it. And when you are winning the national championship, you should definitely press on far as getting your name out there, getting your brand out there, getting seen, getting in the community, and just really getting out there. And like I mentioned, Angel Reese and Flau'jae, they're a perfect example. Like they are everywhere now. They went to the Jennifer Hudson show. They did many podcasts and things like that. So when they actually won, that's when they really start capitalizing on it and being more visible. And just getting out there, and so people can see them more. And so I feel like that is the way that athletes can really capitalize on it, is by getting more visible. And so when you're getting more visible, that's when more people are going to see you. And then that's when more companies going to be like, oh, I want to invest in her. I want to, get her a deal or endorse her, or whatever the case may be. And so that's why they're making millions in high school. I mean, not in high school, in college. And it's amazing because I feel like they have the perfect brand strategy. I feel like they planned that before the national championship. Like, I don't know. I like Flau'jae mom, like she is whatever she does, like her branding is a beast. Like, she's one lady that I'll be like, oh, okay, I want her to be my mentor. I want her to be my mentor, and I want to follow in her footsteps, because it's just like, I feel like they already knew they was gonna win, and then right after they won, they just went on a press run. Like, they was everywhere. So,
and that's the point. And that's the thing. You definitely see when you do your strategy and you stick to your strategy and you roll it out nice and clean. Yes. When that moment hits, it's not a 15 minutes of fame situation. You talk about those women, you still see them everywhere.
Yes, yes.
You feel like you've gotten to a point that you really, especially the LSU team in general, you know who they are. You feel like over time you're getting connected to the women. You're seeing them on different things. Okay, well, there they are. Let me tune in. Or now when they elevate themselves to the next level or get involved with something else, you already feel that tie. You already feel like you know them. So you want to spend your money on that.
Yep. And I feel like it, like you said, it elevated their brand. It didn't like really just help them in like, I wouldn't say help, but it really just, it just really elevate them to a next level with their brand. And so I think they did it perfectly on, once they won, they went right into doing what they do. So, yes.
And I think, you have to keep in mind the other aspect. When you don't prepare and you hit that caliber, or you get drafted, right? Like we've discussed, you have LSU girls right now, top of the game, definitely should be in the league. First round picks or second round picks, they went across the board, and some of them within weeks were cut from the league. And you can try to then go on to, like you said, the international league overseas, or maybe try to be a walk-on on a team. Just because you're cut doesn't mean that's the end all be all. But you have to, it's a lot harder for people to forget you when you have that right brand and you're continuing to grow on it.
Exactly. I definitely agree with you on that.
Cris, how can people get in touch with you if they want to connect with you?
So you can connect with me on my website at gametimewithcris.com. And then also Instagram is consultwithcris_. I'm on LinkedIn at Cris Ross-Francis. Yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you, Cris, for all of your insight today.
Yes, thank you. I had a good time. Good time. You're amazing, by the way.
Thank
you. Make
you.
it so easy. You make it so easy.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and I cannot wait to see where your brand and your company continues to elevate and grow other athletes in the future, and all the amazing things that you're doing, not just with your company, but as well as your nonprofit and just educating other individuals. And I'm so excited for it, and we will definitely have you back on to touch base at some point about where you stand and the growth you've had. But a few of our key takeaways from today's conversation that I personally really enjoyed was getting yourself out there will only elevate your brand. When people know you, they recognize you, they feel connected to you, they are more connected to what you are involved with.
Yes.
As well as your brand has to align with your mission and vision and get that out there.
Yes.
As well as stay active within the community. When you're active within the community, you're not just making a positive impact, but people realize they can rely on you, that you are there for support and for growth as well.
Yes, perfect.
This was a great episode with our top-notch guest, Cris Ross-Francis. Thank you for listening and have a successful day.